Oh, hello there, it's you again. I'm Uncle Matty and welcome to Craft Corner once again. Now, if you've been watching the last episodes of Craft Corner, you might have seen me painting these ghoulish monster paintings. If you didn't see those, feel free to check them out. I'll put a link up here. But if you do go check them out, make sure you come back to this video and watch this video as well, will you? Anyway, I painted these using Montana Fluorescent, aka Neon UV Reactive Spray Paints, which I did the background of. I then used this stuff, Montana Bold Ink, to do the black line work. Following that, I then used Posca paint pens to add these details in mostly yellow, as you can see I've done here. Now, I've just received this, a UV torch in the post today. I've never tried these under a UV light. I didn't paint them under one, but I am aware that the Posca paint pens are not UV reactive. So you can see it all lights up here, except for the highlights and the veins in the head. These were all done in Posca paint pens. This one I actually added a glow-in-the-dark paint too, so it will also glow in the dark. Anyway, today I've bought a load more UV reactive, fluorescent, neon spray paints and marker pens, paint pens, that kind of thing that I can try out, find which ones are best for my style, and maybe you can find out a few things yourself. If you were considering buying some fluorescent paint pens or spray paint, this is the video for you. We're going to find out which one's best today. So let's go. By the way, guys, don't forget, if you like today's video, please go ahead and press that like button. And if you don't already, why not go subscribe? If you're wondering about my new look, a lot of people seem to be under the misconception that I am somehow, because I shave my head, I'm somehow bald. So to those people, I say this. What do you call this? Hair, mate. Got to prepare first. Don't forget to put on your UV trainers when doing this sort of thing. Here's my new shipment from graphcity.com. So I've got some Montana fluorescent spray paints, including this one, which I've never tried, Disco White. Already got all the other Montana fluorescent colours here. While on the spray paint tip, got a full set of these. Well, maybe there are more fluorescent colours, I don't know. Kobra, a bit cheaper this one. High pressure formula. Particularly like the look of that pink. And these are slightly dearer. Belton, Molotow Premium. I believe these were the cheapest, then these the most expensive, the Montana Golds. But yeah, this one comes with a white, which is Signal White, so I don't know if that's necessarily a UV reactive specific paint, but anyway, be interested to see how these compare. And then the pens, I bought a full set of Montana Acrylic water-based markers. These are supposed to be the same colours as the Montana fluorescent range. I've got pink and yellow fluorescent Uni Posca pens, pink and yellow Sakura paint markers, fluorescent pink and yellow Zig Posterman waterproof paint pens. They're my two empties. Okay, let's get trying these out. I'm going to try out the spray paints first. I'm afraid you're going to have to forgive some of the audio quality on this forthcoming spray painting footage. I was wearing a respirator mask, as you always should when spray painting, even outside, but it does make it quite hard to hear what I'm saying. So I've painstakingly put the subtitles on the screen to tell you the names of the spray paints to help you translate some of my grunts and muffled groaning noises.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, maybe. Oh man. I like that. Okay, I've used Montana Red. There's the Montana Pink. Whew. I like that. We got Molotow, Kobra, Montana. There's the pink. Kobra pink. Montana pink. Montana blue. Kobra blue. Molotow blue. Montana. Kobra. Oh. Molotow. Orange. I should probably shake these a bit better. This one is the Signal White. It's the Montana Disco White. That was opaque.
Okay, so this is now completely dried. The Montana Disco White, not really visible in the light. See where I did this sort of an M on here, not really visible. The Signal White, a lot more opaque in the light. Looks like I haven't shaken the Kobra green properly there because you can see a lot of the paint's dripped. Anyway, let's try it under the black light. And here it is. So let's start with the yellow. To me, the Kobra glows like heck. The Montana and Molotow looking a little dull. The pink, again to me, Kobra seeming to outshine the others. Now it is a high pressure paint, so maybe there's just more paint there, but to me I'm quite convinced the Kobra is more bright. Now this Montana Disco White does glow, but the Signal White, as I suspected, does not glow. You can see where I've dropped some blobs of the Signal White here. They're not fluorescent. So the Signal White presumably is used as a base to then layer the fluorescent colours on top, making them stand out more. The oranges, got Montana and Molotow looking again more dull than the Kobra. I'm pretty convinced of that. The green, not so sure on that. As I say, the Kobra doesn't seem to have worked that well. To me, it looks like the Molotow's the most bright fluorescent one. The Montana looking a little more dull. And then of the blues, Kobra's looking a bit more dull on this one. Molotow and Montana pretty much looking the same. Here's a painting I did in a previous episode of Craft Corner, which I've never tried under a blacklight. So let's try that. Ow. So yeah, you can see that glows. So initial reactions, to me, looks like Kobra's the brightest on the yellow, pink and orange, and then possibly Molotow for the blue and green. Montana Disco White is going to be my white fluorescent colour of choice. But let's go outside and do a couple of pictures and see how they compare then. I'm going to do two similar pictures, one using the Molotow, one using Kobra. Let's go. Alright, so here we have it. The Kobra on the left and the Molotow on the right. Very similar. I used the Disco White to splat on for the stars, so they should be phosphorescent, luminescent, neon, whatever you want to call it. You might be catching a bit of glare off my light here, but that's all about to change now. Blacklight time. Look at them go. So, the blue on the Molotow, it seems a lot brighter if you remember earlier, and that actually works against the Disco White stars. You can see they come out a lot clearer on the Kobra spray paint one. If we just look at the suns, the Kobra is very vibrant. This one looks a lot more vivid. Put the light back on. Tone down the amount of blue if you're using Disco White, because they can't really be differentiated once in the blacklight. See, those stars are barely visible. If we look directly below down here, see a previous example that I've done using the Montana Gold neon colours, in part anyway. Here's a few more that I've done previously with the Montana Gold fluorescent spray paints. So to summarise on the spray paints, I think it's really just down to personal preference. The Kobra, despite the blues not being as bright as the Molotow, that's actually worked out alright. So perhaps the brightest, most fluorescent colours aren't always what you're going to need. I did think the sun was brighter, but on closer inspection, this one seems to have wrinkled the canvas for some reason. Maybe the canvas was already like that. Maybe it's because it was a thick layer of paint with it being the high pressure Kobra. I don't know. Hasn't happened to the Molotow. Molotow is a premium spray paint, so the Molotow and the Montana seem very similar, probably because they're both low pressure, premium, highly pigmented spray paints. Bear in mind as well, I'm just doing these on canvases, so if you're thinking for graffiti purposes, really more thorough outdoor testing would be necessary. You might also remember this guy from a couple of videos back. As you can see, the Posca paint pens do cause it to look a little bit weird. They're not 100% opaque against the fluorescent. And obviously they themselves are not fluorescent. So let's go try out some of them other pens. See if we can find a better alternative to these. It's fluorescent pen time. All these Japanese pens aren't the most eco-friendly. Each one comes in its own plastic wrapper. I am going to try and reuse the pens, but every single pen has its own wrapper. If you watched the last episode, you might remember me filling up this empty brush with Montana Bold ink. I'm going to put some of this ink on here so that I can try going over it with some of these different pens. This was a Molotow empty brush I used last time, but I've got a couple more empty pens this time. A Montana empty 2mm round, and also this Grog pointer, which I didn't realise is also a 2mm nib. So I'm going to fill one of these with the Montana Bold and another one with this stuff that they threw in for me to try. Ooh. Well, right away, the sticker on this one makes it quite hard to see how much ink you're putting in. Nice colour. Before I received these new empty pens, I had tried some of these water brush tip pen things from my local art shop. I wouldn't waste your time with these. They just kind of ooze and bubble out. Not good. Had also bought a few neon acrylic paints, but having tried them, they're not nearly opaque enough for my needs, so I'm not going to waste your time with those. Might try this stuff, glow-in-the-dark gel. Oops. More than I planned. Gonna just try out a few different pens on the background before we start out with the fluorescents. You can see they all cover the fluorescent paint pretty well, except for the Sharpie marker, the Uni Paint marker, which was chrome if you remember, pencil there. Really, I'm hoping to find some lighter colours that will be opaque against the fluorescents. Here's that glow-in-the-dark gel. Okay, let's try out some of these fluorescent pens. Pink and yellow, pink and yellow, pink and yellow, pink and yellow. So I'm going to try the Posca paint pens first. I'm going to try just running a line and also over these. Sakura paint medium. These are oil-based paint markers. I've got high hopes for these. Finally, Zig Posterman. So it appears at first glance as though the Montana ink is one of the hardest to cover, that and the Molotow. These Montana acrylic paint pens. So the Uni paint marker, I found that the Sakura pens are slightly more opaque than the others, but there's not much between it on that one. The Zig is definitely the worst. This is the Zig here, the yellow and the pink. On the Sharpie marker, I found the Montana seems to hold the colour best. Not much between the others, except again for the Zig there, looking a bit more dull. The Molotow refill ink, I found they were all much the same, except for the Zig is noticeably worse than the others. You see these two dull lines here. And these 4-artist Pebeo markers, I found the Montana and Posca to be the best, with Sakura doing particularly bad on the black, and the Zig again being pretty rubbish. Alright, so here I've got the Montana Bold ink and Posca paint as backgrounds. My prize for worst pen on both goes to the Zig Posterman. So I think that looks a bit weaker than the others. I found the best pen for use on top of the Bold ink seems to be the Sakura, at least in the yellow. Posca and Montana, not a lot between them, but they both seem pretty good on the ink as well. A bit more bright, especially on the pinks with the Posca. Posca paint as a background, I'd say it's a joint win between Montana and Posca. Sakura again, I don't know, I think it's really just down to preference. The Sakura seems to have a bit more of a yellow. The other ones look a touch green. Or maybe it's the other way around, hard to tell. Just looking at these again in some different lighting, and the Sakura pink, despite being a glossy paint and also being one of the most opaque, is also probably the most dull of the lot. It's an oil-based paint. The Zig Posterman paint does claim to be waterproof, so maybe that would be the better one outdoors, despite it seemingly being the worst on a canvas. However, the Montana and the Posca both claim to be waterproof when dry anyway, so I don't really know if there's much difference there. Here's how they look against the spray paints. I mean, just at a glance, it's looking like the Poscas are some of the most bright and opaque against the spray backgrounds. We've got the Zig with these bottom two. Again, probably the weakest. I should have probably reloaded. The ink looks like it's ran out a little as it's come across the pink. Where's the Sakura paint? It's kind of hard to tell against the backgrounds. I'm leaning towards the Posca, so let's try doing a picture. Put some of these pens into practice. So I've got another picture going here. It's a Montana Fluorescent Spray paint background with then black Posca paint and some purple Posca paint on top. And I'm going to try out the highlights using both the Montana acrylic paint pens, fluorescent pink and yellow, and the Uni Posca paint pens, fluorescent pink and yellow also. There she glows. Okay, so I've added some pink and yellow highlights using a combination of both the Montana and the Posca pens. Might seem obvious, but I felt like the Montana pens worked slightly better on top of the Montana spray paint, whereas the Posca pens worked slightly better on top of where I'd previously put the Posca paint. But only marginal. They're both very similar. Hard to pick a winner between these two. I think anyone would be happy with either of these. Just going to go back in now and touch up the black details using another black Posca pen. Make sure to use an acrylic sealer to finish your Posca paint pen works, as some of the more savage lacquers can take the pen right off. as I found out the hard way. Here it is, glowing his head off. I like the Posca pens and Montana paint pens. Nice. Now up close, I've had to go over with a couple of layers to ensure the opacity in places, as you can see. But overall, I'm happy. I think using a sealer in between layers of Posca will probably help, as I felt I rubbed off some of the layers with my hand leaning on it. But it definitely glows. Alright guys, that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have done, don't forget to go give it a like. And if you don't already, why not go subscribe? I tried adding on some Montana Bold ink onto this Kobra spray painting picture we did earlier. Well, we didn't do it, I did. And I tried the Sakura pens again on top of that Montana Bold ink, but I know none of these pens are particularly fine, what with them all having a 2mm nib, but the Sakura pen, with it being more of an oil-based ink, seemed to really run out of there, and I've struggled to get finer detail. The Zig Posterman didn't really go back to, but I mean, the pens aren't going to go to waste. I'll use them eventually. I'll try them on something else. Check out the glow action. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time on Craft Corner.